Hello, hello, welcome to my safe space. I'm Lena, and on my channel, I talk about my childhood traumas and how they affected me in my adult life. In today's deep dive, I want to talk about the positive traits that my dysfunctional family was still able to install in my brain. And some of those traits I can definitely attribute to my family itself, and some of them I developed because I didn't want to be anything like my family. So in a way, I can credit them for me having those traits because they showed me what not to do. It's like a reverse process of making sure that your child grows up being a decent person. I think I'm a decent person. I don't know if I'm a good person, but I'm a decent person. And I wouldn't have been a decent person if my family either didn't teach me some of the things that makes me a decent person, or if my family didn't show me what not to do in order to be a decent person. So let's start with one trait that I know for sure I can credit my family for, and that is love for animals. I love animals, and I can definitely say that it's thanks to my dad and my grandmother. Both of them were animal lovers. My grandmother loved dogs, and my dad loved cats. We never had a cat, but we had dogs. And my dad always showed me different animals, like even bugs, and like taught me to love every living creature. My grandmother wasn't that loving. She wasn't necessarily teaching me to love all the living creatures, and she even threw away a jar of tadpoles that I had. But I know she wasn't cruel to animals necessarily. She showed me love for dogs, and my dad showed me love for animals, and I grew up loving animals. Another good trait that my family can be credited for that I have is good work ethics. I saw my dad going to work every day, never complaining and just grinding basically. And my grandparents were always talking about how their work was fulfilling for them. And I don't necessarily feel the same way that having a job is fulfilling, but I have good work ethics in terms of me never missing a day, me not slacking, and doing the best I can, and like not half-assing. That's like my big thing. That is something that I definitely got from my family. They were hardworking people, and they realized that work is a part of life. They didn't complain, and basically by watching them, I grew up knowing that it is just something that you do, and I never wanted to be a dependent. I never wanted to have a sugar daddy. I mean, yes, I did for a brief moment. I thought I did, but in reality, that's not something I ever wanted, and I don't mind rolling up my sleeves and getting my hands dirty, so that is something I can thank my family for. I also have a good moral compass thanks to my family. They taught me to never lie, to not steal, not physically harm people. My family also taught me to never scam anyone. Like, I would never get a job where I would have to scam people. I briefly got a job where we were going around, like knocking on doors and trying to sell some bullshit to people, including some dull plastic knives almost. And they were people that were older and vulnerable and easily manipulated into buying stuff like that. and people that don't have extra money, but they would buy it. And I just did it for a day. I followed the person who was doing that. That was like my training, and I never returned because I would never do that. I didn't want to take advantage of the elderly and selling them stuff they shouldn't be buying. So that was something that my family made clear, that scamming people is wrong and I should never get my hands dirty scamming people in any way, in any capacity. So my family was very adamant about being honest working people, never steal, earn your money, work hard, and don't expect somebody like government or, I don't know, a rich relative to come and save you, basically. Just do the hard work and earn your own bread and butter. All of this leads me to the next point, is that they taught me to be genuine. It's pretty big in my culture, like for Russians, for Ukrainians. It's very important and emphasized that you have to be genuine. That's why you won't see people smiling a lot because, well, first of all, that's another topic, but for us to express negative emotions is more acceptable than it is to express positive emotions. It's a whole issue that I want to talk about in another video. But it also comes from a wish to be genuine. Like, people don't buy smiles easily because just because you're smiling doesn't mean you have good intentions. So people look at smiles with suspicion. And it just comes from this belief that you have to be genuine no matter what, even if it hurts other people's feelings, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I believe in being genuine in the sense that you don't manipulate people into thinking that you are a better person than you are. Like, it's not about how you treat people, but it's about the image that you have yourself. That's what I mean when I say that my family taught me to be genuine. I take pride in the fact that the people that I'm friends with have said before that what they like about me is they always know what to expect because I'm not fake. I will not deceive. I will tell them how I feel. I'm not going to pretend that everything is fine when it's not. Like, I feel like that's like being an adult. And I feel that it's important to be genuine like that so that people know who you truly are. So I feel like my family was genuine in the sense that they weren't pretending that some of my ideas were good ideas or that I could achieve anything I wanted, which isn't realistic. On the other hand, my family was pretty cruel because they wouldn't accept any of my ideas. Like, all of my ideas were dumb for them. They did not even try to meet me halfway and at least like be supportive. My family also taught me to help other people. My dad would be empathetic to alcoholics and drug addicts. And it's not that my dad was an alcoholic or drug addict himself. Like, that's not why he supported people with addictions like that. He just had empathy to recognize that addictions are not a person's fault. They come from, mental issues and bad environment and stuff like that. So you can't always blame a person and say like, oh, he's just weak and he chose to be an alcoholic. Nobody chooses to be an alcoholic. Nobody grows up thinking, oh, I wish I was an alcoholic. You know, like it always happens despite what the person actually wanted for themselves. Like it's an addiction. It's it's an illness for a reason. So he had empathy to recognize that. A lot of people in my culture don't recognize that it's an illness, alcoholism or drug addictions. And my dad had empathy for that. And he taught me from early ages to help people like that, not give them money necessarily, but at least like buy food or give clothes and stuff like that, which I do to this day. Oftentimes, homeless people will approach me at the entrance to the grocery store and I'll ask them what they want and I'll go and buy it for them. I won't give money because honestly, I don't want them to go and buy alcohol. I don't want to support them that way. But I want to help and do something, you know, and give them something. So I ask them what they want. And sometimes it's food, sometimes they want a lighter, like socks, maxi pads, and like stuff like that. And I'll buy that. So I just noticed not everyone feels that way. So I know I'm not in the majority. So I feel like I should credit my dad for teaching me how to be empathetic towards less fortunate people. And in the last portion of the video, I want to talk about traits that I got because I saw how my family acted and I decided to go against that and not be like them. And what are those traits? I learned to put myself first. Throughout my childhood, I was always pushed back and shut up, and I was treated like I didn't matter, like I was just this useless body in the house that didn't have any opinions, feelings, or thoughts, and basically I didn't matter. And that taught me to love myself because no one else did. I felt my entire childhood, I felt like nobody loved me, except for when my dad manipulated me into thinking that he loved me, so I would do what he wanted me to. But overall, I never felt like I was loved as a child. Those feelings manifested into me loving myself. I basically had to love myself for the lack of love from outside. Once I learned how to love myself, it became 100 times easier to heal because I wanted to heal for me. I loved myself enough to wish the best for myself, and that was the biggest motivator to get better because I had empathy towards myself. I loved myself and I didn't want to suffer anymore, and I looked at myself kind of from like outside, you know, and I saw this girl that wasn't loved by her family, was abused her entire childhood, and I felt empathy and I knew I had to do something. I knew that I deserved better. I knew that I had to get better because now I'm in control. Because now that I'm an adult, I'm in control and I should help myself. So basically, by abusing me and not showing me love, my family inadvertently taught me how to love myself. Another thing I learned from my family is to not be apologetic for being myself because they did not want me to express myself. They wanted me to be as quiet and as invisible as possible, and I just didn't agree with that, I guess, so that over time I became more and more rebellious and I just started doing whatever the hell I wanted, or I started doing things that I knew my family wouldn't approve, and I just decided to be me. You know, I decided to have my own personality shine because my family wouldn't let me. And I'm very grateful for that, because if I didn't let my personality come through, I would still be living as this closed up person who was never herself, you know, and that's not a way to live your life. If you're never yourself, you're trapped. You're trapped in your own mind. You are just this shell of a person. And I wouldn't want to have that life. I wouldn't want to pretend I am something I'm not for the rest of my life. So I'm glad that my family pissed me off enough with that I was so rebellious that I decided to be myself despite of what they wanted from me. Yeah, so my family was very dysfunctional and messed up in the head in a lot of ways, but they taught me some good things in life that I carried through my entire adulthood up until this point, or some of the things that I, you know, came to as a result of my trauma and things like that. But all of those I can attribute to having my family the way that it was. And for better or worse, I grew up being a decent person. So I guess they weren't that bad after all. I don't know. Again, I'm not saying that abuse is okay. It's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just resilient, I guess you could say, to traumas, and I'm lucky to have had a certain support system in the shape of friends and distant relatives that I talked about in another video. But the abuse is detrimental for a mental health of a child. I keep saying this over and over again, and I don't want to make it sound like, oh, it's okay to abuse children. They grew up just fine. I grew up normal. I grew up a decent person. So what, I was abused. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. Not everyone is fortunate like myself to be resilient and to have support system to go through all of that and came up on top relatively. I'm just trying to show that my family, despite them being so destructive for my mental health, there is still something positive I can say about my family. Not everything about them was bad. Some things were good, you know, so I can't ignore them. And that's what this video is about. That will be all for today. Thank you for coming. There is another video you can watch if you're interested. And subscribe if you want to hear more about the childhood traumas and how they affected me in my adult life, because a lot of my traumas are relatable to a lot of people. And I thank you for coming, and I will see you in a week. Bye.